Well, if there is something that you're supposed to avoid if you want to grow wealth and do something about your money, is to avoid something that we call the consumer mindset. Before I even actually explain to you why, let me just define what is a consumer mindset so that you define or understand whether you have it. So a consumer mindset is this mentality of people that usually have it, especially with these middle incomers. They usually have this having this kind of a mindset whereby if you tell them, hey, you know what, you're supposed to live below your means, the rest of the money channel it towards your saving for the purposes of investment, they raise volumes and tell you, hey, this life is very short. Life is for the living. It's good to nice yourself and all those kind of things. Sometimes they even tell you, what if I save na nikufe? So the point is this. So if you have this kind of a consumer mindset whereby you believe that money is to be made and to be consumed, money is to be made as to be consumed, there is nothing not true about that statement. It is very true. Money is to be made for it to be consumed. But if that is what rules larger percentage of your understanding as far as the money, however, this is the kind of an individual, whenever they get money, they always believe, once I get money, this money should be utilized. This money should be used. This money should be enjoyed. Let's say in your life you've never gotten any, let's say like 100K. So once you get the 100K, instead of you thinking how you can make that 102,000 or 110,000, you're thinking, hey, there is something that I've been missing for quite a long time. There is a certain shoe that I love. There is a certain suit that I love. There is a certain car that I do love. There is nothing new loving all those things if you have what we call the financial stability. It doesn't make any sense. Let's say you have yourself like 2 million, you want to buy a car. Obviously, you can buy with that amount of money, but you cannot just show up in a dealership, you buy a car, and then the next minute you're struggling. You do not have the financial freedom. The point is this: if you have that kind of a mentality, you do believe money is to be made for it to be consumed, even without attaining what we call the stability of it, then you have what we call the consumer mindset. And this mindset is actually affecting a lot of guys, especially these guys who are employed in likes of the corporate industry, the fintech, and what have you. These are the guys who really cares about where they live, how they dressed, whom they hang around with, and all those kind of things. And they're not doing all this for the purposes of them growing a good network. By the way, there's something I will tell you. There is nothing bad with you getting that expensive coffee in that, expensive place on the purposes of you, having a contact of that individual whom can link you up into doing something, when you're creating network and all those kind of things. But if you're just having it on the purposes of enjoying yourself, being happy and all those kind of things, and this is the underlying factor, and you are not financially stable, then you're having what we call the consumer mindset. And you're trying as much as you can to make sure that you impress people. And obviously you don't love these people, but you're using a lot of money to impress them. That's what we call the consumer mindset. Now, why am I saying you should avoid it? All right, so stick around and watch this video to the end for you to understand that. And by the way, do you know that I always post a video each and every day talking about money, investments, how to save your money, how to grow yourself. And let's move together. One day, 10 or 15 years from today, perhaps you'll be coming back and watching these videos and you'll be like, oh my goodness, through Joseph and God's help, we actually made something out of it. All right, so anyway, if you don't want to miss any of my good videos in the future, do it. Doesn't cost you anything. Down below there on your right, there is a small button written subscribe. It is in black. Hit that magical button, like this video, and turn that notification bell. And a whole YouTube will notify you whenever I upload a new good video. So, all right. So, why am I saying you should avoid the consumer mindset? Let's look at the consequences and what are the remedies on that. Number one, once you have the consumer mindset, you tend to have or make what we call develop scarcity mindset. I know you've been brought up, let's say you were not fortunate enough to be brought up from a wealthy family. Always your parents used to tell you, hey, money doesn't grow on trees and all those kind of things. So they told you whenever you get it, hold it still, and make sure that you really retain it, be careful, and all those kind of things. So what they fed into your head is that money is actually in limited supply out there, which is overly not true. By the way, if you would like to know how money is plenty out there, just take an example of any given city. All those guys who are moving, it's all about money. 80% of whatever they're making them move up and down, it's all about money. So money is in plenty. The only problem is that perhaps what you're doing right now, it's not appropriate. It's not attracting more money to your point. And remember that time that I've used attracting. for you to actually make more of it, you have to be attractable. You have to make sure that you always attach a value on top of your head. So whatever you're moving, you have a value on top of that. So once you have this consumer mindset, you tend to have this scarcity mentality, whereby you are saying, hey, right now I have this 10K. I mean, I should buy that thing that I've been looking for. Otherwise, this money can just disappear. All right? Because you still have that scarcity mentality. Hey, once you get this, let's say 100K, you'll be like, hey, you know what? There is something that I've been looking forward into having. Let me just go buy that thing. Perhaps you don't even differentiate whether it's an asset or whether it's a liability, because you are operating on this mentality that, hey, money is a scarcity, and if I don't do it as early as this, as fast as I can actually go ahead and lose this money because of 1 or 2 or 3. And you actually justify yourself to, or not only to you, but to your people. And the worst mistake that you can ever do is to lie to yourself. If you can avoid this scarcity, if you can avoid this consumer mentality, you tend to do away with this, the scarcity mentality, and believing that the money is scarce out there. The moment you accept that deep inside of you, you tend to open up some things, and you can actually see things in a different form. Right now, maybe this message may not even make sense to you. You may feel like, okay, just you're not giving us like substantive information. I am telling you, a time will come, you'll be able to open up and see exactly what I always tell you. So the consumer mentality is one of the things that is affecting most of the guys who are employed, and it's actually dragging them behind. Number 2, the reason as to why you should avoid it, it actually makes you paranoid when it comes to investments. You are out there, maybe perhaps you've managed to save like your 200K, maybe your 150, maybe 86, depends on your capacity. And there you are, somebody tells you, or maybe you have an idea, you know very well deep inside of you. The funny thing about life is that you know deep inside of you, there is that conscience that tells you, hey, you know what? You cannot, you have to do something with this money. You have to make sure that it's generating more income. You already know investments are important. But there you are, because of the mentality that you have, you're actually holding back. You don't want to take any action. You are worried. You feel like, hey, what if I take an action and then this money is lost? And all those kind of things. And when you have this consumer mentality, you tend to be paranoid. Whenever somebody shares you an idea that where you can be able to invest, you tend to develop that defense mechanism and say, hey, what if I lose money? You always draw examples from the failed businesses. You say, hey, what if I put my money and end up like flan and flan, or end up like so and so? What if I take this money and put it somewhere and then I end up being like so and so? And all those kind of things is because of the consumer mentality. What you're supposed to have instead, I'm going to share with that at the last point, by the way. So the point is this: try as much as you can to avoid it, so that you don't get yourself into this paranoid. And by the way, most of these guys who tend to be paranoid as far as the investments are concerned are these employed people. I always give this example. There was one time I tried to do a business with a teacher, and I am telling you, before we executed that idea, that guy, they have to verify like a million things before them to put, and we aren't even talking about huge amount of money, just a small amount of money. You have to be dares and all those kind of things. And these guys who actually tend to be smart in school, and the academicians we call them, they tend to, they tend to be perfectionist. And when it comes to businesses and investments, it doesn't really need perfectionist. And if you're a perfectionist when it comes to businesses and what have you, it can't be a little bit rough for you. Sometimes you get to overlook some things for you to make a decision so that you can proceed and move to the next level. The point number 3 is that you actually become more emotional every time your comfort is disturbed. What does it mean? I've ever seen these kind of guys who have this kind of a mentality. For example, if you check on my comments, some of them, you'll see them on the comment section. They tell you, hey, what have you done yourself? What do you have? Where have you invested? Where are you telling us to do this? And all those kind of things, and that kind of mentality and approach. You know why? Because you feel, yes, whatever has been said, yeah, it is true, honestly. It has really hit me. But again, hey, guess what? I don't want to get out of that comfort, And the moment that comfort is disturbed, obviously you have to react. And let me tell you one secret. And bear with me with this. Huh? If you want to know somebody has a low IQ, every time something is said and it actually disturbs them, and it's something that, sometimes they use an analogy to explain a point. They just take that point literally. They develop emotions on that specific thing. They cannot even be able to defend themselves, and how they defend themselves is through emotions, not logical, and all those kind of things. That really tells you you're dealing with a very emotional individual, and you're supposed to avoid them as much as you can. When I say avoid them, I mean avoid those kind of a conversation. Maybe they may be your partners, and obviously say avoid them, it means like, you know what I'm saying? So the point is that you have to understand that Some people tend to be more emotional. If you have this consumer mindset, you tell them, hey, you know what? How about we sacrifice? And for example, you can take this in a typical marriage. You have maybe a husband and wife, they're sitting together, and somebody, be it either party, okay? And then one party says, hey, you know what? Where we are right now in this money that you have, I think we should sacrifice as much as we can for the next 2 years. And I believe we can be able to do something. Let's not go for quite a high rental house. Let's just, hold still where we are. We try to save as much as we can. And I am telling you, before the end of that conversation, people say, the other partner say, hey, this doesn't work this way. Remember when we used to struggle, we should enjoy ourselves. This life is very short and all those kind of things. And then they rub shoulders. And at that particular point, you find there is actually a friction between the two just because of the mentality that we usually have deep inside of ourselves. But again, I want you to take this information with a pinch of salt. Why? You can actually avoid the consumer mentality, and then you go to a far right, to a point whereby now you become, you only invest, you just invest, you don't even take care of yourself. Have you ever seen those kind of guys? They just invest. They don't even change clothes. They don't even develop themselves. They don't even make any difference. They are just asset rich, but they have not improved how they actually perceive, or they are perceived, looked, or all those kind of things. It is good to make sure that at least you have a balance of all those things. And I always tell people, if you can know how much your health is actually your wealth, you can actually take care of it. As much as you're investing in all those kind of things, take care of your body, exercise. Make sure that you don't get yourself exposed to some of the diseases and all those kind of things. So as much as you're actually avoiding the consumer mentality, that does not mean you're not supposed to take care of yourself. You are supposed to make sure that you balance all the three things so that at least you do something that is constructive. You're growing yourself socially, financially, spiritually, and all those kind of things. So the point is this. Make sure that you avoid this, otherwise it's going to drag you to what we call the emotional approach of things. And once you develop this emotional approach of things, whenever you're comfortably disturbed, you're going to react, and you can actually create a lot of enemies out of this situation that is out there. All right. The other thing, the last one but not the least, and this is what I did promise, that you should have what we call the production mentality or the mindset. You see, when you have the consumer mentality, and this is what differentiates rich people and those people who are actually consumers, you realize when you subject one individual, let's say you give them like $500,000 and you give the other one $500,000, there is one individual who will think on how they can actually now hit their million bob, and there is another one who will think, hey, you know what, I have 500,000. I think my friends should know. I think I should grab that Mzinga. I think I should grab that clothes that I've been looking forward into having. I think I should grab that. They think from the consumer mentality. They say, hey, what? I think it's high time to change my couch. I think it's high time I get that screen that I've been looking forward. I think it's high time that they develop, the moment they get money, they develop that consumer mentality. They don't even think on how they can be able to multiply that. And I always tell people, the moment you get that money, look at it from a point of, let's say it's an opportunity that has been given unto you. It's an opportunity that has been presented unto you. Now from there, make a decision out of it. It's like you've been given a seed. You can opt to eat the seed. Maybe you can cook it and eat the seed and actually satisfy the today's hunger. Or you can decide to sacrifice today, do what you were doing initially, survive as if nothing has just happened, plant the seed. After 1 or 2 years, now you can actually have lots of fruits where you can actually be eating from that specific tree. Guess what you'll have? You'll have been having a tree that will be producing fruits each and every time, whereby you can be able to harvest and sustain your whatever, should I say, the consumability. And again, the tree is actually out there. So it's you to make a decision based on what you get and what has been presented unto you. That is simple, what we call avoid the consumer mindset. Otherwise, if you continue with the consumer mindset, that one can actually drag you in terms of the growth. And I always say, the point is not looking rich. The point is you being rich. There's nothing good like you having that financial stability. You do not have even to explain to people. You just do things in a very, in a flawless way. You do not have even issues and all those kind of things. And whenever you realize that actually kicking in inside of you, then you're supposed to know everything is actually becoming good. Anyway, guys, for now, it's a goodbye. But don't forget, you can grab my number from the description of this specific video. Give me a call. I offer services pertaining to investment. I have business plans on different businesses. I have booklets on investments and all those kind of things. A copy only goes for $280. All right, for now, it's a goodbye. See you there.